The vast emptiness of space stretched before the human fleet, a collection of ships that looked more like hastily assembled scrap metal than a serious military force. Captain J. Park stood on the bridge of the USS Horizon, his eyes scanning the holographic displays that flickered with various sensor readings. Around him, the ship hummed with nervous energy. The crew knew exactly what the rest of the galaxy thought about them. A joke, a primitive species playing at interstellar exploration. The Galactic Confederation had made no secret of their contempt for humanity's first attempt at a deep space fleet. A massive holographic transmission crackled to life. The alien admiral, a towering creature with iridescent scales and multiple eyes, looked down on the human representatives with pure disdain. His translator rendered his words with clinical precision. "Your species is laughably unprepared," the alien commander sneered. "These ships are nothing more than metal coffins. We have studied your technological capabilities, and they are pathetic." J. Park remained calm. Around him, his bridge crew exchanged knowing glances. They had heard these speeches before. Each member of the crew represented the best Earth had to offer, not just in military training but in adaptability and human ingenuity. The alien continued his tirade. Star charts appeared, showing the proposed patrol routes for the human fleet. Red markers indicated high-risk zones, areas where pirate activities and potential conflicts were most likely to occur. To the alien strategists, these routes were a death sentence for the human ships. "We are assigning your fleet to the most challenging sector," the admiral continued. "Consider this a test which we are certain you will fail spectacularly." Young Lieutenant Elena Rodriguez caught Captain Park's eye. She suppressed a small smile. The aliens had no idea what was coming. The USS Horizon was more than just a ship. It represented years of secret development, of human engineers and scientists working tirelessly to create something unexpected. Every system, every component had been designed with one principle in mind: adaptability. Where alien ships were rigid and specialized, human technology was fluid. Where alien strategies were predictable, human approaches were chaotic and innovative. The Galactic Confederation saw weakness. They would soon learn it was actually strength. The transmission ended. The bridge fell silent for a moment. "Prepare for deployment," Captain Park said quietly. His voice was steady, almost calm. "Navigation, plot our initial course. Weapons, run final system checks. Engineering, I want maximum efficiency from our modified drive systems." Each crew member moved with practiced precision. They were not just soldiers or sailors. They were representatives of a species about to prove itself on the galactic stage. Outside, the ship's reinforced windows. The stars seemed to wait in anticipation. Distant planets glimmered like jewels, silent witnesses to what was about to unfold. The human fleet might look small. It might look weak. But looks could be incredibly deceiving. Something fundamental was about to change in the galaxy's understanding of humanity. And nobody, not the condescending alien admirals, not the skeptical military strategists, not the countless civilizations watching with amused contempt, had any idea what was coming. Captain J. Park allowed himself a slight smile. The game was about to begin. The USS Horizon's engines began to pulse with an energy that seemed to defy conventional physics. Something was different. Something was brewing. The star system looked quiet. Too quiet. Navigator Yun Kim's fingers danced across the control panel, scanning the endless darkness for any sign of unusual activity. The USS Horizon moved slowly, its modified sensors probing every potential hiding spot. No one expected what would happen next. Pirates emerged from the asteroid field like ghosts. 5 sleek ships, each designed for maximum destruction, surrounded the human vessel. Their weapons charged instantly, creating a web of deadly energy that would have destroyed most standard fleet ships. But the Horizon was not a standard ship. Captain J. Park remained calm. "Evasive pattern Delta," he called. "Out." His voice didn't even sound tense. It was almost like he was ordering lunch, not responding to an imminent attack. Lieutenant Elena Rodriguez's hands moved with lightning speed. The ship's defensive systems were nothing like traditional military technology. Where alien ships had rigid shield generators, the Horizon had adaptive membrane technology that could reshape itself microsecond by microsecond. The first pirate missile struck what seemed like a vulnerable spot. Instead of penetrating, the missile's energy was immediately absorbed and redistributed across the ship's outer hull. It was like watching water flow around a rock in a stream. The pirate commanders watched in shock. Their targeting systems showed perfect hit locations. Their weapons were state-of-the-art, yet somehow this human ship was completely unharmed. Hyun Kim's voice cut through the tension. Targeting systems locked, preparing counter-strategy. What happened next would become a legendary moment in human military history. The Horizon didn't just defend, it transformed. Weapon ports that looked dormant suddenly expanded. Energy conduits that seemed passive became active channels of incredible destructive potential. The ship wasn't fighting like a traditional military vessel. It was fighting like a living organism. 2 pirate ships were disabled within seconds. Not destroyed. Disabled. The human weapons precisely targeted critical systems, leaving the ships intact but completely non-functional. It was a surgical strike that defied all standard combat protocols. The remaining pirate vessels tried to retreat, but retreat was impossible. The Horizon's communication systems did something unexpected. They broadcast a complex signal that interfered with the pirates' navigation and communication networks. Suddenly their ships were blind, deaf, and completely lost. "Surrender is recommended," Captain Park's voice echoed across all pirate frequencies. It wasn't a threat. It was a clinical observation. Within minutes, the entire pirate operation was neutralized. No lives were lost. No unnecessary destruction occurred. It was efficiency personified. Unbeknownst to the crew, their entire encounter was being watched. Alien monitoring stations, expecting to witness a human defeat, instead recorded something entirely different. The Galactic Confederation's military analysts would spend months trying to understand what they had just witnessed. How could a seemingly inferior human ship completely dismantle a professional pirate fleet without breaking a sweat? Back on the Horizon, the crew continued their mission as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Captain Park reviewed the tactical data, making notes with the casual attitude of someone reviewing a routine maintenance report. "Interesting," he muttered, which was the extent of his emotional response to their incredible victory. Lieutenant Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. The aliens had no idea what humans were capable of, and this was just the beginning. The star system returned to silence, but something had changed. A message had been sent. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The USS Horizon continued its patrol, moving silently through the darkness. Another day. Another unexpected victory. The massive conflict erupted without warning. Alien ships filled the sky like a swarm of metallic insects, their weapons charging with deadly precision. The Galactic Confederation had positioned the human fleet as nothing more than a temporary buffer, expected to be quickly destroyed. Lieutenant Daniel Kim saw something nobody else noticed. The enemy fleet moved with mechanical precision. Each ship followed predetermined attack patterns. Their movements so synchronized they seemed more like a computer simulation than a living battle force. Most military strategists would see this as strength. Daniel saw it as a fatal weakness. "Captain," he called out, his voice calm but urgent, "their formation has a consistent rhythm. 3.7-second response interval between squadron movements." Captain J. Park raised an eyebrow. Most commanders would dismiss such a minor observation, but not here, not on the Horizon. Within moments, the human fleet began to move. But they didn't move like traditional military vessels. They moved like water, fluid, adaptive, unpredictable. Where alien ships followed strict geometric patterns, human ships danced between potential attack vectors. The enemy initially appeared overwhelming. Thousands of ships against the small human contingent. The Galactic Confederation's monitoring stations were already preparing documentation of human defeat. They were wrong. Daniel's calculations transformed into action. The horizon began broadcasting sophisticated electromagnetic signals that confused the enemy's communication networks. Suddenly, their perfect formation started to fracture. Ships that were once synchronized now moved with increasing chaos. Target their communication relays, Captain Park instructed, not as a command, but as a clinical observation. The human fleet's weapons were unlike anything seen before. They didn't just destroy, they disrupted. They understood. Each strike was a precise surgical intervention that turned the enemy's technological superiority into a complex problem. 3 enemy squadrons lost navigation. Another 5 experienced total system failures. And the humans, they hadn't lost a single ship. What made human technology unique wasn't its raw power. It was adaptability. Where alien systems were rigid and specialized, human technology was a living, breathing ecosystem of potential solutions. The battle wasn't just about destroying enemies. It was about understanding them, solving them like a complex puzzle. Alien commanders watched in disbelief. Their perfect battle plans, developed over centuries of technological advancement, were being dismantled by a fleet they had previously considered insignificant. One alien admiral's communication transmission captured the moment perfectly. How are they doing this? The answer was simple. Humans didn't fight like machines, they fought like living, thinking organisms. Every challenge was an opportunity. Every limitation was a potential advantage. As the conflict progressed, the human fleet continued its unexpected performance. They weren't just surviving. They were teaching a masterclass in unconventional warfare. Lieutenant Elena Rodriguez managed the ship's adaptive defense systems. Where traditional shields would block or absorb damage, her systems would redirect, transform, and neutralize incoming attacks. It was less like defense and more like a sophisticated conversation with incoming energy. Hours passed. The battle that was supposed to eliminate the human fleet became a turning point in galactic military understanding. When silence finally settled, the human fleet remained intact, undamaged, almost casual in their victory. Captain J. Park reviewed the tactical data with the same expression he might use when reviewing a routine maintenance report. Interesting, he muttered. The most emotion he would show. The Galactic Confederation would never look at humanity the same way again. What they had considered a weak, insignificant species had just rewritten the rules of interstellar conflict. The stars remained silent witnesses to a fundamental shift in galactic power dynamics. Humanity had arrived. And they had arrived on their own terms. Reports began spreading across galactic communication networks like wildfire. The human fleet was no longer a joke. They were a force to be reckoned with. Commander Yoon Park stood before the Galactic Confederation's military council. Alien representatives from dozens of advanced civilizations watched her with a mixture of curiosity and newfound respect. Gone were the sneers and dismissive attitudes. Now, there was genuine interest. Your tactical approach defies everything. We understand about military strategy, said a crystalline species representative, its transparent body shifting with complex internal lights. Yoon simply nodded. No dramatic speeches, no grand explanations, just a calm acknowledgement of their capabilities. The evidence was overwhelming. Detailed battle reports showed how human ships transformed challenges into opportunities. Where traditional military doctrine suggested retreat, humans saw potential solutions. Where alien strategies were rigid, human approaches were fluid and dynamic. Military academies across the galaxy began studying human tactical maneuvers. Holographic simulations reconstructed their battles, trying to understand the fundamental difference in human thinking. What made humans unique wasn't superior technology. It was their ability to improvise, to see beyond the immediate problem and create solutions that broke every existing rule. Back on the USS Horizon, the crew continued their missions with remarkable calm. For them, this was just another day. They didn't celebrate their victories. They simply learned and adapted. Lieutenant Daniel Kim developed a new communication protocol that could disrupt enemy systems without firing a single weapon. It wasn't about destruction. It was about understanding and neutralizing potential threats. Elena Rodriguez's adaptive defense systems became the subject of intense scientific study. Alien engineers struggled to comprehend how human technology could reshape itself in microseconds, absorbing and redirecting energy in ways that defied conventional physics. The Galactic Confederation's military database was rewritten. Humanity was no longer classified as a developing species. They were now considered a strategic asset, a wild card that could change the balance of power in an instant. Alien diplomatic channels buzzed with new conversations. Collaboration proposals arrived from species that had previously mocked human capabilities. Trade agreements were drafted. Research partnerships were suggested. Yoon Park reviewed these proposals with the same clinical approach she applied to military strategy. Each offer was an opportunity. Each communication a potential solution to broader galactic challenges. The human approach was becoming clear. They didn't seek conflict. They sought understanding. Every challenge was a puzzle to be solved, not a problem to be destroyed. Military historians would later call this the human paradigm shift. A moment when the galaxy realized that technological superiority meant nothing compared to adaptive intelligence. Intercepted communication logs showed alien commanders studying human tactical training videos. They were trying to understand the mindset that could turn limitations into strengths. The USS Horizon became more than a ship. It was a symbol, a representation of humanity's potential, not as conquerors, but as problem solvers. One alien analysis summarized it perfectly. Humans do not fight wars. They solve complex systemic challenges with unprecedented creativity. Commander Yoon Park's final report to Earth was typically understated. Initial contact protocols successful. Galactic perception adjusting. Continued observation recommended. No excitement, no drama. Just a clinical observation of a fundamental shift in galactic dynamics. The stars continued their silent dance. But something had changed. Humanity had announced its arrival, not with loud weapons or aggressive posturing, but with quiet, intelligent problem-solving. The final battle would become legendary, not for its destruction, but for its unprecedented resolution. Captain J. Park stood on the bridge of the USS Horizon, watching the complex holographic displays. Alien fleets surrounded them, not as enemies, but as unexpected allies. The galaxy had changed, and humanity was at the center of that transformation. A massive threat approached, an interdimensional force that had previously destroyed entire civilizations. The alien races that once mocked humans now looked to them with hope. The Horizon wasn't just a ship anymore. It was a living system of adaptive intelligence. Lieutenant, Elena Rodriguez's fingers danced across complex control panels. Her systems were no longer just defensive. They were predictive, understanding, communicating with the incoming threat in ways no other civilization could comprehend. Analyzing, she said quietly. But it wasn't just analysis. It was a complex dialogue with an unknown enemy. The alien commander of the Galactic Confederation fleet watched in complete silence. Where his species would typically prepare massive weapon systems, the humans were doing something entirely different. They were solving a problem. Daniel Kim's communication systems began broadcasting a complex series of signals. Not weapons, not threats. Something more profound. A mathematical language that attempted to communicate, to understand the approaching threat. The interdimensional force hesitated. No one had ever tried to communicate before. Every previous civilization had only attempted destruction. Humanity's approach was revolutionary. Instead of fighting, they were trying to understand, to find a solution that didn't require complete annihilation. Minutes passed. The entire galaxy held its collective breath. The threat began to change. Its massive energy signatures shifted. Something was happening that no one had predicted. Communication was happening. Captain Park remained calm. This wasn't a battle. This was a conversation happening at speeds and levels most species couldn't comprehend. Alien military analysts would spend decades trying to understand what happened in those moments. How a seemingly small human fleet could transform a potential galactic extinction event into a moment of profound understanding. The interdimensional threat slowly transformed. Its aggressive energy dispersed. Something resembling communication emerged. Fascinating, J. Park muttered, the most emotion he would show. When the event concluded, nothing was destroyed. No weapons fired, no lives lost. The Galactic Confederation's leaders gathered in an emergency session. The human representatives sat quietly, waiting. "We cannot understand how you did this," the crystalline alien representative said. Its transparent body reflected complex emotional patterns. Yoon Park, now leading the human diplomatic mission, simply nodded. No grand speeches, no dramatic explanations. The reports would later show something unprecedented. Humanity had solved a problem that had threatened multiple civilizations for thousands of years, not through superior weapons, but through understanding. Military academies across the galaxy began completely redesigning their training programs. The human approach was no longer something to be studied. It was something to be learned. Communication, adaptation, understanding. These were humanity's true weapons. The USS Horizon continued its mission. Another day, another unexpected solution to a complex galactic challenge. Stars continued their silent dance, but something fundamental had changed. Humanity had arrived, not as conquerors, not as warriors, but as problem solvers. The galaxy would never be the same.